Low on funds, but want to build a classic truck? You might be surprised what can be built on a low-cost budget. Hello my friends, Kevin here, and thanks for watching this video in our Bottom Line series, which focuses on all things about custom lower trucks. This time around, I'm going to talk about how to build an affordable classic truck. I think most people on this planet can appreciate the beauty of a classic truck, but not everyone thinks they have enough money to own one. Well, what if I told you that you could build a low-cost classic truck for $10,000 to $20,000? I think that we can all agree this price range could be considered doable. If you're convinced about all of this like I am, and your budget is a little tight, there are a few key tips that I can share that will make it easy to turn your classic truck dreams into a reality. The first piece of advice I would say is to keep it simple and modest. I've heard many stories about people wanting to keep things simple in the beginning, but they get wrapped up in the possibilities of having a head turner or a showstopper, and everything just unravels from there. I've been in the automotive media business for over 2 decades, and I can tell you that I've heard all types of stories like this. But I've also heard people say that they were really able to keep things down by not going overboard with customizing. Heck, I even built a 62 GMC patina style truck for under $20,000, and it even has a full engine and drivetrain swap, along with a lowered suspension, wheels, and even a simple stereo system. Of course, it's currently down and awaiting a rebuild because I went too hard on it, but that was just me having too much fun and simply pushing it too far. Alright, let's keep this going with the secrets to making your classic truck journey the least costly as possible. Obviously, the first step in this process is to find the perfect truck to start with. Now, this part is getting more expensive as time goes by. Finding a cheap old truck is becoming a real task these days as more people know the real values of them. However, there are still deals to be found if you are patient and have some negotiating skills. A lot of people use online tools like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace to find cheap old trucks, and I would say the prices on these outlets are fair, but you definitely have to do your homework on what is for sale. Buying sight unseen usually leads to overpaying, and I suggest making no commitments until you can fully examine the truck you're looking to buy. Remember, impatience leads to compromised decisions. I think it's best to take your time to think about the things you want and weigh out the best options for you. Honestly, you might even find a better project with some patience as well. I've heard several times when people found a truck sitting in a yard and the buyer walked up to the house to find an older person that just needed some convincing to let a truck go. Oftentimes, this is a good way to score a deal. I know most of you have some sort of allegiance or some preference in brand, and I think there are some great trucks with each of them. On the Chevy side, C10s are hot, and it's hard to find the highly desired 67 to 72 short bed trucks. However, you can find long bed versions and even 60 to 66 C10s for only around a few $1,000s. Just keep in mind, you usually get what you pay for. Square body trucks are getting more costly, as well as OBS 88 to 98 trucks, as they are highly sought after these days. Honestly, finding an OBS truck under $10,000 can be a real task. On the Ford side, 67 to 72 bump side trucks and 73 to 79 dent side trucks can also be found for good deals. OBS Ford trucks are also a trending market, but are still affordable, and frankly, I think these are great looking trucks that have big potential. Dodge trucks will always be cheaper as they are the least popular. I'm not entirely sure why either, as some of them look great. Swept-line trucks of the 60s and early 70s have some cool lines. I even dig the 3rd generation D-Series trucks as well, and I think those can make for some great project trucks if you can find one in a good condition for cheap. The biggest struggle of finding the perfect project truck is body damage. Let's face it, these trucks were designed to be put to work, and the majority of them were used. Decades back, when they were first produced, people bought these trucks for their utility rather than their style. Though you never want to damage a vehicle, people were less worried about keeping these trucks in pristine visual condition. Other major problems come in the form of an ugly 4-letter word, which is rust. This is the antagonist in every classic truck story, as it is like a disease that can't be reversed. Once an area is affected, it is forever compromised. If the damage is severe, like it can be on floorboards, it is imperative that you repair it and that you quickly make a detour on your custom truck expedition. My suggestion for saving yourself from disaster is to check the underside of a truck to see if there are any major issues. With that being said, rusted out trucks will be cheaper, but in this case, I would say cheaper is not better if you are wanting a budget build that won't take a million years to complete. As far as scoring a good truck goes, I can tell you there are still deals out there. You just have to know what you're looking for. I think you can get several models of trucks for cheap, but just remember, the older it is, the more risk in having rust. Dodge trucks will be the ones that you'll want in the best condition, as they have the least amount of support when it comes to replacement parts. There are other issues with these trucks, but we'll get into that later. Speaking of truck body conditions, paint is a huge concern for saving money on a project. Painting a truck can be one of the biggest setbacks on a build, as it costs a lot to have a respectable finish on these classic bodies. Just so we are clear here, paint materials alone cost thousands of dollars. Then you also have prep work with replacement parts and the use of body filler, which can cost in labor and time as well. You can expect a high quality paint job to cost between $25,000 and $50,000, which will quickly eat up your truck's budget. This is why it is key to find a project in the best shape as possible. Now, you can take things into your own hands here to save money, but paint work is an art form and it's something that takes a lot of practice to perfect. You can definitely save here by doing this yourself, as I have heard many successful stories of people creating makeshift booths to paint vehicles. But I do not recommend skimping here, as imperfections will be something that people will quickly point out. Another option here includes applying a wrap. Good quality materials still come at a cost, but they are severely cheaper. Having a professional wrap applied can cost a couple thousand and really is only a temporary solution, as wraps will not last as long as well-maintained paint, and you will have to replace it after a number of years. But if you don't mind some of these things, it could be a viable solution for your project. The alternative to all of this is having a dedicated patina truck. If you find a truck with a decent body and it only has weathered paint, there is no shame in rocking it as is. I have a patina truck and can tell you that it gets thumbs up from other people all the time. I even had a highway patrol officer wave me down on the freeway once to tell me that he digged my truck. When it comes to lowering, it probably comes to no surprise to hear that Chevys have the most options here. They are the most popular, and that means more companies are eager to capitalize on the opportunity by providing parts for them. Another thing these trucks have going for them is that the suspension allows for simple lowering springs to drop them down up to 3 inches for only a few $100. Talk about an amazing deal. For Ford trucks, things are a bit more complicated, as most classic F-Series trucks have a twin I-beam front setup. You can add some springs to them, but when it comes to the alignment, you basically have to heat up and bend the I-beams to get it right. This can be costly and it's a bit challenging. You can also upgrade with a set of DJM Dream beams, but that will definitely add to your budget. For those that are more mechanically inclined, you can replace the entire front suspension with one from a Ford Crown Victoria with the Panther chassis and get a dramatically lowered stance. You also get disc brakes and a modern rack and pinion steering system for improved drivability. I believe you can still find these in junkyards for around $500, which is a great deal for what you get. The best part is that they bolt right into many Ford trucks. Though, there is one common complaint about these swaps, is that the track width is so wide, it doesn't allow for deep lip wheels. I've even heard of these Crown Vic swaps working on Dodge Sweepline trucks with some persuasion. That's definitely helpful, as there aren't many options for Dodge fans. I think there are some drop kits on the market, but the rarity of them comes at a cost. However, if you find a Dodge truck for cheap, then you can allocate more for suspension mods. Moving on to performance modifications, with Chevys the sky's the limit here, and you really don't need much, as most of them came with stout V8s. A lot of times, previous owners swapped in better units, making them pretty respectable. If you want more power, you can simply add a better carburetor, intake, camshaft, and even exhaust for not much money at all. If all else, you can find rebuilt small block engines for only a few $1,000s. Though popular, I wouldn't call LS engines budget friendly unless you can salvage a used one for cheap. On the Ford side, things are a bit the same, but prices will be slightly higher due to less demand. You can also find affordable rebuilt crate engines like the 351 Windsor. I've also seen people use later model Ford V8 engines like the Triton that can also be sourced from junkyards too. However, if you want to add modern power from a Coyote, salvage ones will cost you $7,000 to $9,000, and crate versions will cost you at least $10,000, and you will need a host of pricey parts to make it all run, including a wiring harness and a computer. You can find speed parts for Dodge trucks, but again, they come at an added cost. It is popular to swap in a modern Hemi engine, but the most cost-effective way will be with a used setup. My buddy Justin Reed was able to find a 5.7-liter Hemi with a transmission for only $2,700, and it worked amazing on his truck. He told me that with some know-how, the swap could cost just a mere $5,000, and that's not bad for that kind of transformation. Wheels and tires are one of the biggest make or break pieces you can add to your truck, but they also don't have to necessarily break the bank. If you go on the cheap here, you really can save in this section. I have used 17 to 18-inch wheels that only cost around $250 a piece. Used wheels can also be salvaged or found online for cheap. Just make sure to get the right sizing and bolt pattern for your application. When it comes to tires, you're not going to want to skimp here as you get what you pay for. Nitto has some good options like the NT555 G2 or the NT420V that work great on classic trucks. If you're really trying to save on your build, you can also look into Nitto's Motivo tire, which is a bit more cost effective. Above all, when it comes to building a budget truck, know your limits. It's easy to get in over your head with mods and parts. I know sometimes it's hard to restrain yourself when it comes to building, as a lot of us have issues staying on track. But if you can keep your focus on the big picture, you might find that owning a running and driving mild custom classic truck is better than having a project sidelined because your ambitions are higher than your skill level or budget. And trust me, owning a full-blown show truck can be a burden. A lot of times they are temperamental in operation and can be a pain to keep clean and damage-free. I've heard from so many owners of these trucks that end up telling me that they would rather have something simple they could enjoy on a more regular basis. Just remember, there's no shame in keeping things simple. Well, my friends, that just about does it for this video, and it's time for me to sign off again. Before I go, I want to thank you for watching this video. And if you made it this far, you might as well help me by hitting that like button. If you have any thoughts about building a truck on a budget, by all means let me know in the comments section. Also, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks for watching Driving Line. If you guys like this video, consider subscribing to our channel so you'll never miss any of the content we create here. Whether you're into trucks, Jeeps, imports, domestic vehicles, or anything in between, we are here to fuel your passion. So hit that subscribe button and we'll see you guys next time.